There's a strong possibility BlackRock is a name you need to familiarise yourself with. It's an American financial company that has gone from nothing to the world's largest and most reputable manager of other people's money in less than 30 years. The incredible value of the assets entrusted to their care is over $9 trillion US, which has 12 zeros. How much money does BlackRock put into Europe, and where? What effects does this immense financial power have on European businesses and their employees? How does it exert its influence? Will BlackRock's recently revealed social expectations for the businesses it invests in help to improve the business environment? This video will answer all your queries about this mega company which has progressed by leaps and bounds, leaving the world in utter confusion. BlackRock was established in 1988 by 8 colleagues with knowledge of mortgage-backed assets: Larry Fink, Susan Wagner, Robert S. Capito, Barbara Novick, Ralph Schlosstein, Hugh R. Frater, Ben Golub, and Keith Anderson. They were able to manage assets that were beneficial to their clients due to a $5 million bank loan. One of his early clients was the FDIC. Due to the poor judgments made by S&L, the industry was about to collapse once their settlement trust organisation was established. The FDIC hired Fink's BlackRock to manage S&L's holdings after the government took them. BlackRock was creating a Fink version technology though. The tech was referred to as Aladdin. By 1991, BlackRock had $9 billion in AUM. In 1992, they had $17 billion. In 1994, they had $53 billion. Peabody, a Kindler, filed for bankruptcy the following year. GE, which owns Peabody, contacted Fink to help sell Kindler's $7 billion portfolio of mortgage-backed securities. In 1995, PNC Financial Services Group invested $240 million for a share in BlackRock Financial Management. Some people claimed that the action was useless at the time because BlackRock was only giving a portion of its business. Fink was fully aware that he was about to go on a challenging ascent. BlackRock was going to redefine it all with the upcoming offer. The partnership with PNC gave BlackRock access to a steady flow of retail clients to complement its institutional clientele, which in the 1990s still made up around 80% of its AUM. Having diversified its holdings, BlackRock started trading publicly in 1999. People were still skeptical about the newest technology though. BlackRock had the worst IPO of the month. As time passed, the market learned that BlackRock was honouring its promises to investors despite having the lowest shares. Fink decided to capitalise on the power of acquisitions over 16 years of steady expansion. Before the end of the year, BlackRock had operations in Sydney, Singapore, London and Munich. In 2008, Fink was travelling to Singapore by plane. Back home, Lehman Brothers had filed for bankruptcy. The following day, Fink left for the United States. The financial sector had changed and now was in danger. He'd call politicians and caution them. "The shit is hitting the fan, you've got to do something." Aladdin was employed by investors, banks and the Treasury because the bank failed to examine their investments. Aladdin was on the rise and kept growing by gaining more clients, becoming the go-to spot throughout economic turbulence, even when the market was collapsing. The embarrassed man, the Fink, had come to prevent the nation's financial collapse. After that, the buying binge continued. BlackRock bought Barclays Global Investors for $13.5 billion in 2009 and paid $1.3 billion for eFront in the same year. This acquisition made BlackRock the leading asset manager in the country. Fink understood from away the benefits of technology when it was used correctly. He received recognition as one of the best CEOs in the world for 14 years running. A man who was fired is now the most influential person in finance. Larry Fink is one of the most influential figures in the world of finance. The 70-year-old co-founded and continues to lead BlackRock, the largest money management company in the world, with assets close to $5 trillion. Additionally, he appears in HBR's 2015 list of the top CEOs in the world. But Fink's willingness to alter the financial system that's helped him become who he is genuinely sets him apart. Fink frequently and passionately criticises the dangers of short-term thinking, particularly on Wall Street, a subject that gained popularity as the 2016 US presidential campaign got underway. He has always been a Democrat. In April 2015, he made headlines by writing a letter to the world's top CEOs pleading to disregard their activist shareholders and put their firm's long-term health first. As the first foreign-owned company authorised to do so, BlackRock, under Fink's instructions, started entering the Chinese market by providing mutual funds and financial products to Chinese customers. Also, advising investors to treble their exposure to Chinese assets was the research division of his organisation. The billionaire has risen to prominence on the right, and has supported conservative populists with his fortune. He contributed at least $10 million to a super PAC that backed J.D. Vance in the race for the Ohio Republican Senate primary. Blake Masters' campaign to become the Arizona Republican state nominee also received support from Thiel. Additionally, BlackRock has become a focus of new legislation introduced by Republican Senator Dan Sullivan that aims to limit the influence over firms held by the most significant asset managers, including Fink's company. There will always be inflation. It wasn't a prospective thought. It never was. We haven't experienced an economic catastrophe like this since 2008, but we are now on the verge of one. It's not a good idea to print 1/4 of the money supply in a few months. Even worse, the company secretly orchestrating everything is poised to take centre stage. It is BlackRock, the company that owns you, and you don't even know it. BlackRock, which Larry Fink founded in 1988, is the largest Wall Street fund in the world, managing $9 trillion in assets. Except for China and the United States, that exceeds every nation's gross domestic product. You would be worth as much as BlackRock in around 240,000 years if you earned $1 every second. We know how you feel, you're over it. Numerous businesses and influential figures possess the blood money necessary to reduce everyone to a paste. But here's why BlackRock should frighten you particularly. Due to the corporation's ludicrous liquidity, almost every significant publicly traded company in the world has BlackRock as its first, second, or third largest shareholder. Now that we have everything out of the way, let's speak about why BlackRock is not anything to be afraid of. You ought to be frightened. The three major asset management companies, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, control $15 trillion in assets. That represents nearly 70% of the US GDP. However, there are other reasons you need to fear BlackRock. They're the link between Wall Street and Washington DC, so you should be afraid. Who do you suppose the Federal Reserve hired to clean up the wreckage during the 2008 housing crisis, when the government bailed out too big to fail corporations like Lehman Brothers, Citigroup, AIG, Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac? That's right, it is undoubtedly BlackRock. Before the financial crisis, I was unfamiliar with the name. But in the years after the Lehman Brothers collapse in 2008, BlackRock appeared everywhere. Everywhere. Even Heike Buchter, German financial correspondent covering Wall Street for over a decade, said. The fact that BlackRock had a significant share in the banks they were rescuing made everything worse. This is referred to as circular ownership in finance. We just refer to it as economic horse dung. BlackRock may unilaterally control the flow of partisan information because it owns a portion of CNN and Fox. They also influence where we live and what we buy, sell, and consume. They control our politicians as well. According to William D. Cohan, author of the best-selling House of Cards, BlackRock's founder Larry Fink is like the Wizard of Oz, the man behind the curtain. At least 3 BlackRock executives hold prominent roles as of 2021 in President Joe Biden's cabinet. In fact, the financial sector and the media have unofficially referred to BlackRock as the 4th branch of government because of their propensity to assemble shadow cabinets before presidential traditions. BlackRock uses a sophisticated technology platform called Aladdin, which manages more than $21.6 trillion in assets. This explains why it's so effective at assisting governments worldwide. The short version is that Aladdin compromises about 5,000 supercomputers and now serves as the brain of the world's most affluent investors and asset managers. The past 10 years have seen a stratospheric increase for BlackRock. However, when a single corporation becomes so big that it has unrivaled control over the majority of public traded companies and significant influence over governments worldwide, it must raise questions about how that company uses that power and how powerful a single company could be. Hope you liked the video. We have tried to unleash some intriguing facts about BlackRock.